Attack on Titan to me is one of the greatest and personally one of my favorite shows of all time. And throughout the years of watching it, I thought nothing could ever come close to the way I feel about this masterpiece of a show. Until I watched One Piece. But before that, I feel like I need to give y'all some much needed context. I never liked anime growing up as a kid because I always thought it was just cringe and the humor was just exaggerated all the time. It just wasn't really for me. La 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 la. But until 2020, I decided to finally start my first anime, which was Attack on Titan. And man, that was peak. Damn you! You traitors! A lot of people at the time told me Attack on Titan was a wild choice for a first anime, but to be honest, I didn't care. I just wanted to finally get into the genre, and luckily Attack on Titan hooked me just like that. From the characters to the world building to the depth of the story that was being told was just so interesting to me, and I was ashamed I never gave it a chance because I didn't see how good anime could really be, and I thought nothing else could come close to this amazing show. Like, bro, when Eren was instigating his dad to kill him inside the ice chamber, bro, that scene had me going crazy.
It was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
And the whole plotline with the rumbling, Eren being Thanos but actually succeeding. Shout out my boy Thanos though. It was just insane. And the show had me thinking, who was writing this? Cause it was just on a different level than what I was used to watching. But after AOT ended, or when it decided it was a good idea to split their show into different parts for 3 years for some reason, I was wondering what I was going to watch next, and some of them hit while others didn't. I tried Demon Slayer, Akame got killed, other shows that were on at the time, but none of them could compare to Attack on Titan. And I know what y'all are saying already.
You didn't even watch the big three, or you only watched mostly recent ones.
And yeah, while that's true, I just got off the high of AOT where I thought anything would hit for me, but sadly it didn't live up to it until I discovered One Piece. Now guys, when I tell you I did not expect to like this show at all, I am not lying to you. At first, I started it as a joke since most people around me or on the internet was constantly saying,
come on bro, give One Piece a chance, it gets good around episode 200, I swear.
Like, bro.
Shut the f up! Shut the f up! Shut up!
To get all the way to episode 200 point is actually baffling to me, since if you don't like the show by Baratier and / Sanji's introduction or Arlong Park, then just drop it, because even though it's not the peak of One Piece, it still has the highs that later on in the show still makes you keep watching, and it builds on those characters and those moments even better later on in the story. Not only are the characters compelling in their own ways, but their sense of adventure that the story gives you is just insane. Especially with Luffy's dream of becoming king of the pirates, which is more complex, but we'll touch on that later. But when I tell you this, it says he'll be king of the pirates every chance he gets, it's like, it was crazy to get it, bro. To be completely honest, I thought I would drop it after 50 episodes or so, since, come on, it's 1,000 episodes. Who would watch all of that? And to your point, I need more. It's not enough. Like, everything going on in the show just clicks in the best ways and works, and it consistently keeps that same rhythm going for 1,000 episodes, which sounds crazy, even though like the pacing is like, you know, bad. We'll touch on that later, but the story of One Piece just works in the best ways because you know the story Oda wants to tell. Now let's start with the highs of One Piece. It has very high highs for me, and that's true when it comes to the world building, especially because every damn place they visit is just so good looking, man. Especially Water 7 or Sabody Island. In each island or location as well, you meet different characters or elements that enhance the story even better and drive each Straw Hat to an overall motive. I mentioned Water 7 because Water 7, I mean, just look at this place, bro. But also because we come to see the complicated characters and stories that lie beneath this beautiful city. Now, earlier when we talked about the 200 episodes until it gets good point, this is actually where I fell in love with One Piece. Because while Arlong Park and Alabasta was good, in my opinion, they don't measure up to this saga that we dive into. The Usopp versus Luffy fight, rescuing Robin, meeting Frankie, saying bye to the Mary, which, man, I am not over, man. Cause that when I tell you I did not expect to almost cry over a ship.
Even if the time we spent together was short, I'm glad that I could spend it with you.
This saga just has so much going for it, and it would be non-stop action and lore that kept you hooked. And 1 minute you would be around like 5 episodes or 10 episodes into the saga, and the next minute you know you're 50 deep because how good this overall saga just kept hitting back to back. I picked Sabody also because of the reason of it being so early on, pre-time skip, and finally having huge enough stakes with the Straw Hats and facing Kizaru or Kuma or the axe lady that I can't remember her name, which is sad because I'm on Egghead right now. Guys, so as I'm editing this, I had no idea that Sentomaro was a guy. That's my mistake. Don't fry me. And yeah, back to the vid. We also get introduced to the worst people in the world as well in this arc, which is the Celestial Dragons. And like every moment in this show, I'm telling you his, because when Luffy punched this Celestial Dragon for hitting his boy Hachi, that got me out of my seat too. But aside from that, we also got huge info about the world of One Piece from Rayling, which was a former member of the Gold Roger crew and will play a massive part into the upcoming arcs in the story when it came to Luffy or Blackbeard and etc. But not only have we got introduced to Rayling, but we also get introduced to Kizaru like I mentioned earlier, and that is just his face every time gets me dying. But I also kid you not, he low-key got some dumb powers, because you telling me I eat a devil fruit and I get light powers? I mean, he be cooking with the light powers, but come on, I couldn't have gotten something like Luffy. He literally a god. Aside from that, the island of Sabody is at first shown to be this lovely little shopping island and tour sort of scenery. But it's not until Hachi, one of their allies, and I mentioned earlier, Luffy slid for, informs us that this place isn't what it seems, and shows us how cruel some of the people in this world can truly be, even enslaving mermaids and treating fish no different than scum, which was rough, man. The design on some of these places look great in my opinion, and you know you're in for a good arc every time when the Straw Hats visit one of these places. And it really makes you see how different each part of this massive world One Piece is, and makes the adventure even better when they leave and set off into the next big world. And you're left wondering what more could they possibly show you to keep you entertained, and it just gets better every time, man. Now, for the story, in my opinion, I 100% believe that One Piece story is not better than Attack on Titan story. To be fair, I'm a little biased, but also to be fair, AOT just set a really high standard for me starting off as my first anime. Now, when it comes to storytelling, One Piece, in my opinion, works better that way of not having this insane, mind-boggling, twisting story every second like Attack on Titan does, but has more of an adventure because it's more fun and better in the world that Oda tries to tell. Almost every place the Straw Hats visit is either enslaved or have something much deeper going on that our characters always end up solving. And while it can seem repetitive on paper, it never does. Each arc and section of the story means something, and it leads into the next or 500 episodes later, which is just insane. And I love when shows actually have continuity and know what story they want to be told in the later years. And they even sometimes bring back stuff from earlier that makes the current story even better. A perfect example that comes to mind with this is Kobe, because the character of Kobe in episode 1, we see him, episode 1 and Romance Dawn, we see him as this little nerd. He's like your typical anime, like, little nerd character. He doesn't really have anything going for him except trying to join the Marines and becoming a great one. And it's not until episode 300 that we see just how much Kobe grew up and just became a much better character. And while he seemed weaker, he did seem so much stronger than we last seen him. And my mind was blown, since most shows, Kobe would probably just get written off or just forgotten about, or maybe even like mentioned like in the last episode of a show. But the Oda and the writing just goes out their way to like keep bringing all these characters back and actually makes the people these Straw Hats meet on the journey mean something, which I love. Monkey D. Luffy has easily and without a doubt became one of my favorite characters in fiction, and it's a pretty simple reason why. In my opinion, he's a very well written character with a somewhat similar goal to Eren in a way of wanting freedom. And Luffy so desperately wants that freedom with his dream of becoming king of the pirates, but it's not only to be free from the government and all the other ties that could hold him down, but free the people around him. Oda is very smart the way he writes Luffy, especially with how he doesn't care for romance unless it's meat, but instead have him only care about his crew, because he realizes Luffy can never truly be free until he's surrounded by the people he loves most, and will go to hell and back just to risk his life for those people.
ロビンの敵はよくわかった。ソゲキング。あの旗撃ち抜け。
了解。新兵器巨大パチンコラオカブト、その威力とくと見よう。視察ファイヤーバードスター。
Another perfect example that comes to mind is in Wano, when Kinemon asks Luffy to help him after getting defeated by Kaido. And I'm telling you, I damn near teared up because just how much Luffy's friends means to him. Like, it just shows how much Luffy's friends means to him, even if it means taking down the strongest character we met so far in the show to do so.
こんなにすげえ奴らの大将なんだろ。カイドウを倒したい。ゴムゴムのヘッドロック。
Luffy smiles through everything, but when he doesn't, you feel that anger and understand why he feels the way he does. And it's usually when one of his friends are in trouble, and it's very rare for him to make enemies. Once again, I want to applaud Oda for this, the way he writes Luffy, because one of his powers is literally just being able to make powerful friends and ally with his personality alone, which is so simple but so effective for the story. When I tell y'all this dude is dumb as bricks sometimes, I am not lying to you. And his brain really only works when he's serious or when he's in a fight. But weirdly enough, I think that's also why I love him as much as I do. Because he doesn't have to be this main character or your typical main character that gets relied on because of his brain, or they just always have a plan in the back of their mind. But it's because of his sheer willpower alone of becoming king of the pirates and fulfilling his dream to Luffy, like I said earlier, isn't just about ruling the sea on a ship with your crew, but it's about the adventures you make alongside with them and the freedom that you would attain from doing so. So this is a complaint that a lot of fans have, and I'm pretty sure it's very apparent in One Piece, where you would think a character is dead for like a good chunk of episodes, then they would come back and act like it was a graze on the shoulder or something. Like, no, you was impaled 4 episodes ago. How are you walking? Like, it wouldn't be so bad if it didn't happen to almost every character that isn't in a flashback, bro. And I kid you not, when a certain character died, that I don't want to spoil right now, that happened in Wano, I thought they would be back later because of how much the show does this. And it became laughable in my opinion. Because, like, they had a funeral for them. And it didn't click to me that they're actually dead until, like, they was low-key looking emotional. I was like, what? In no way does this factor ruin One Piece at all for me in the slightest. It just makes some of the stakes feel really low at times, which really sucks. Now, we're getting into the obvious pacing issue. Now, this is mostly the center of attention for every One Piece criticism, and it's a very obvious reason why. I'm not going to spend too long on this since literally everybody knows about it, but people were not lying when they said that the pacing was outrageous, because I get that the studio has to try not to catch up too quickly to the manga and stay on course with the but gosh damn, do you feel the pacing in the show? When people talked about it before, I went to the show thinking, oh no, y'all exaggerating, it can't be that bad. And half the time, the show just drags on scenes and does a bunch of pointless stuff we don't need to see. And it's annoying. Now, I might get a lot of tomatoes thrown at me for this next thing that I'm about to say, but I decided to switch to one pace more than halfway into the story. And it was around Dressrosa I had to, because I couldn't. I felt like if I stuck with the show with this pacing, I would not fall out of love with it, but it would just get repetitive with just how long each exaggerated scene would be. And even with one pace, it does everything it needs to do. Like, it adapts the show like how the manga is paced, and the later arcs needed this. But even then, they still felt really long, like in Wano or Whole Cake Island, because they was just exaggerating things that didn't need to still be happening. But I also get to this point that happens in anime, and I'm still new to this, but we don't need to see all that. The story of One Piece is one of the greatest pieces of fiction I ever had the opportunity to watch. No exaggeration. And even after 1,000 episodes, I still want more. I mostly made this video to talk about my love of One Piece. And depending on how long it is, I feel like it's still not enough to really say how I feel. Anyway guys, let me know if you want to see more type of content like this. And you can find me on all my socials. Please like and subscribe, and peace.